In our last session, we read a letter from a woman who wanted to stop having children after having 4 of them, but who didn't want to use the conventional birth control methods available to women. Her husband, Ron, however, refused to get a vasectomy. I suggested that Ron had a right to make his decision, even though in doing so he demonstrated a selfish concern for himself, not for her. Now, back to the writer of the letter. So now, what can you do? How can you prevent the birth of another child? First, remember, again, that you don't have a right to control Ron. Medically speaking, it does appear that a vasectomy is the way to go. Least risk, greatest chance of permanent protection. But you can't make that decision for him. Your next move? Anything that involves you alone, and you have lots of options. First, you mentioned that you are angry about his decision. And if you talk to him while you're irritated, even a little, your conversation will be guaranteed to end badly. Guaranteed. If you're irritated, Ron will hear in your behavior only that you don't love him, and then he'll resist you, fight you, and so on. He certainly won't be motivated to do the loving thing here. So, you study the principles in these 2 emails until you see that his choice is his. When you really get that, you'll lose your anger. You're angry only because you have a belief that you have a right to influence his decision, and you're angry that you can't. After the study of real love principles, tell the truth about yourself. Admit that your desire to control Ron is selfish and unloving. Yes, I know that Ron is being unloving, but we're not talking about Ron here. You can change only one person, you. So let's concentrate on that. Let's focus on what works. Tell the truth about your own selfishness to people who are capable of accepting and loving you. And as you do that, you will feel more full and less empty and afraid. Without fear, you'll be able to talk to Ron without anger, peacefully, calmly. This is critical. So, now you sit down with him and explain that you've been wrong to tell him what he should do. Wrong. You have a right to do only what affects you. Explain the following to him in your own words. First, I love our children and I love you. Second, I don't want to do anything that could have a negative effect on my ability to love you or our children. That would be horrible. Third, if we have another child, I believe that I will feel more and more overwhelmed, and in my emptiness and fear, I will use getting and protecting behaviors that will hurt our marriage and our children. Fourth, there is no my way or your way, only the best way to see to it that I don't have more children, with the least possible risk of pregnancy and risk to the health of either of us. Then, you talk with Ron about the relative risks of the different forms of birth control. You can get concrete numbers for all of them. They're known. For each form, you can demonstrate the risk of pregnancy and the risk of illness and death for the person being treated. It should then become obvious that vasectomy is the safest alternative. And if Ron still balks from fear, ask him if he'd be willing to talk to a urologist about how to minimize the risk and fear to Ron. The procedure could be done under general anesthesia, for example, which would decrease his fear. In our next session, we'll talk about another option that you could consider.